You know, folks, when I decided to do this little comparison video, I knew that I couldn't do it myself. So I had to bring in a friend of mine, a high school Hall of Fame golf coach, father to LPGA superstar Kelly Robbins, and he knows a little bit about golf. I actually did a little thesis on my golf swing back in the day. So I want to introduce you, Mr. Steve Robbins, my old high school golf coach, biology teacher. Steve, we go back a long ways.
We sure do, Dan. Yeah, it's a privilege. Really appreciate being here.
Yeah. Well, you know, we took this 9-frame video and, you know, I got to tell you, a little bit of ego involved. I listen all the time to, you know, the announcers and everything talking about these power hitters today, how their club head speed and how they get to the positions they are. But when I found this 9-frame, you know, deal in Golf Magazine, I had to kind of take that ego and say, hey, let's do a little comparison. So what I want to do with you is not only we'll get to comparing it against these young players and how they get to those power positions, but I want you to kind of look at where my power, this is from 1982. I was coming out of high school, you and I, you know, we worked together for a little bit during high school, and I want you to break down this golf swing because you've got some interesting ideas about where that power is created and how not only, you know, big hitters are getting there, but also maybe something that would help an average player to get in those positions.
Yeah, Dan, one thing is that if you look at your setup in number one, your setup is very balanced. Excuse me, I remember Greg Norman saying when he set up, he felt about 60% of his weight was on the back foot. And how does that feel to you? What would you say?
Well, I would say maybe even more sometimes,
yes,
because I think you can transfer your weight back away from the ball a little easier when you've got that set back. We do see a lot of amateurs in our teaching more with their weight on the front, and that's where they get into the sway.
Right.
You know, they get their weight over left and they have to move off the ball. From this position that I see with myself and all these players is that they're just going to be able to move off the ball very easily with their weight back a little bit.
Exactly. And as you take the club away, taking it away, like you say, low and extending it, also taking away with a good solid left side.
And you know, I always felt like the big muscles turn the club away. I tell even any students that I work with, if you can make your hips and your shoulders kind of move, let your arms and your hands swing back with it, it sets it up so that the twitch muscles or the fast muscles don't have to work as much to get the club back.
Exactly.
So I think this two position, you know, I talk about it all the time, extension. But that extension comes from, and I tell people, the feet, the knees. You look at how that club is moving back, and that lower part of the body stays under me very well. We're going to see that consistently through some of these other swings we're going to look at.
Exactly. Yeah, and as you see there, what you're doing is you're increasing your arc, of course, as everybody talks about. And when you do that, you increase the distance that the club travels. And with the speed that you can generate, then that's going to really increase the distance the ball goes, obviously.
Yeah. Is it your philosophy, Steve? You know, and I'm going to use kind of the people that I see working. The club moves back, and then the downward move is to the inside track, where a lot of amateurs pick the club up first,
Right.
and then they try to extend out. You want to get the arc deeper on the takeaway, and then it drops inside. So that second circle basically is the downward transition, and that's what you're really going to see probably especially in number 5. I mean, you got great left arm extension. I always talk to people about, they seem to think they want to break their elbow down, their left elbow. And as you can see in my swing that day, it stays
firm.
pretty firm.
That's right. The interesting thing too is back in this day, I think we taught more leg action than what they do today. And you can see in 3, for example, how your legs are working. And the knees are flexed and ready to move. Going back to 5, like you said, I've always been intrigued. I was told Olga Korbut and the people that worked with gymnastics back in those days also, that the Russians worked with trying to relax small muscles while big muscles are contracting. And it's a very difficult thing to do. But what you do, which, you know, there's several players that do it. I don't know if they do it quite to your extreme, but the fact is that you see in 3, the angle between the left arm and the club. Then you see, like you say, 5, where you've been able to relax your hands while your big muscles are torquing the body, and you're dropping the butt of the club toward the ball. Yeah. And, you know, that's really an important position. And you'll see people release it early, for example, like you're talking. And you're dropping the butt of the club toward the ball, and you're maintaining that angle, and your hands are probably 6 to 8 inches from maybe a little farther than that from the ball, but the club is still flexed and you still have angle between your left arm. And that release adds, of course, additional power to it.
You bet.
But being able to relax those hands to set that, it's a bullwhip effect, starting with your feet and working up. And we've talked about that many, many times, is the importance of that left side, the strength in the left side, the leg action, and then dropping the butt of the club. That bullwhip is coming through. The end of the whip, of course, is the club head. Yeah. And without the good footwork and the leg movement and the hips, then it's going to be slower.
Now, when I left here from high school, I went to Arizona.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to work with a gentleman who really kind of taught within a time or a look up the back of the shoulder, or the top of the shoulders. Okay. And his mentality was, if the shoulders don't move, then the knees are staying flexed. If you don't go up and down, it's not from your head, it's not from your shoulders, it's from those knees staying flexed. And if you could draw a line off my shoulders on every one of those, go to 4, 5, 6, 7, the level of my shoulders have stayed consistent. Right. Why? Because my knees are in that flexed position. And that's the most athletic position you can be in, and allows you to really come out of, into 7 and 8 with a lot of power coming in behind to the right.
That's right.
But you did make a great point. The left side leading and the left side controlling that position. Most amateurs have at least 20% more strength out of their right side than they do out of their left. So how can you control it? And I tell people, I said, the biggest difference in the tour players that I have ever seen is their hand strength and their forearm to elbow there, where they can control that hitting zone a little bit with their left side. And we're going to see that consistently throughout, is that lead in and that transition coming in is really controlled by that left side. And I did, a lot of strengthening out of that left side over the years.
And what people don't realize, you've always amazed me at if you want to chip the ball 6 feet with your left arm only, no right hand on the club, you can do that with very good control. If you want to, and when you were younger especially, if you want to hit, say, a 9-iron 130, 40 yards with your left arm only, you can do that too with good control.
Can't do it anymore, but I used to be able to for sure.
Yeah.
But listen, folks, we're going to have a great time with this. You can see, the finish. The finish is a product of great balance through the impact zone. And when you lose that as a player, you lose that ability to finish on your left side. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to take this photos and we're going to frame it against some of these great young players of today. Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Tony Finau. And what's going to be interesting is to get Steve's breakdown on a guy like Justin Thomas. And we're going to take a look specifically at his footwork. So come on back with us and we're going to break that down.